Hi, this is the Jacobitz Learning Channel. We're going to do math for the Graduate Management Admissions Test. This question came from one of the tests that was given about a year ago, so hopefully the same format will be used. We're just giving you suggestions for how to think through exam questions anyway. So whether it's the actual wording or not, our intent is to get you to think through how to read. By the way, we are a K through 12 public school. You can find us at jacobitslearning.gmail.com. We're the Jacobitz Learning Center. We're located here in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. But listen, right now, here's what we're doing. This was an actual problem. The sum of the lengths of all the streets in one neighborhood, Y, is 1,400 miles. If the sum of the lengths of the unpaved streets is 3/4 the sum of the lengths of all the streets, how many more miles of the paved streets than the unpaved streets are there in the neighborhood? And your question choices are 200, 400, 600, 800, 1,000. If you're thinking already, you're looking at what is 3/4. And you have to understand that 3/4, as most of you know, if you got to this level, 3/4 plus 1/4 is going to give you a whole. In our previous video, I had said go from total or whole to parts. And that's what we're doing here. Okay, so all of this is going to give you the total, which is 4/4. So your mind can already kind of think that 3/4 is going to be 3/4 of 1,400. And a lot of you are going to say, well, wait a minute, 3/4 doesn't go into 1,400 evenly, and it doesn't. See, and that's the problem. That's where you're not getting a straight, 100, 0, 0 answer. So that's why we go through the extra of trying to get you this, but it's 3/4 plus a number. So when we get ready to set up the equation, that's the first thing we ask you to do is write an equation. And if you don't have time to scribble real quickly, hey, they gave me y. If you don't have time to do all this y, just know that y is 1,400. And 1,400 has to equal some variable. You don't have to say p. You could say x, p, whatever. I'm going to use x. That's the most used variable for most things anyway. And then times 3/4 x. That's really all this equation is. Okay, but I kept it here at paved and I did 3/4 unpaved because that's what they gave us. Now your mind should see this question a little bit more clearly. Okay, so here it is again. It says solve the equation. So you have 1,400 equals paved plus 3/4 unpaved. You always have to notice that in front of this here is automatically a 1. And if I wrote 1 paved, that would be okay, but the reason I didn't is because you have to do a fraction. So I just put it 1, 1, which is the same as 1 anyway. Okay, so you have 1, 1 plus 3/4, and then when you get ready to divide, if you go 1, 1 plus 3/4, when you're doing your fractions, you guys remember this from elementary school, uh, 1 times 4 is 4. So you take it one way and then you do the other way. 4 times 1 is 4. That's 4/4 plus 3/4, which your mind is already saying equals 7/4, because now you keep your denominator the same, and that's a 7/4. So let's go over to the other slide. And here you are. You have it done here. See, you just go on ahead and add because your denominator is the same like we did in the previous slide, and you have 7/4. Why am I keeping the x here? Because I want you to remember that you still have to solve for the variable, because this variable is going to tell you the sum of the paved streets. And both of them are talking about sums, so those kind of words we can throw out. So you're talking about paved. Okay, And so when you solve it, you have now 1400 equals 7/4 paved. Okay, when you go over, you get ready to remember that 3/4 represents the amount of unpaved streets. So now you have to take this 7/4, and in order to take it to the other side, you have to multiply, have a dot there for multiplying it, by its reciprocal. And if it's 7/4, reciprocal is just turning upside down. And when you do that, you cross multiply. And when you cross multiply, you're going to have 1 on both terms. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and cross multiply so you see what was done already. 7 times 7 is 1, and 4 times 4 is 1. You get 1, and you get 1 here. So you have 1x. You could just write simply x, no problem. But then we're going to cross multiply 1400 times 4 over 1 times 7. Or you could just say 14 over 1 times 4 over 7. Where did I get my 1 from? Whenever you're dealing with a fraction, there is always a 1 here. So it's imaginary, but it's always there. So when we do the other side, we can now cross multiply here. 7 goes into 14 2 times, right? And just add 2 zeros. Or you can go through this long, tedious procedure of doing this, or some of you are going to have an online calculator, but I'm just showing you the method because I didn't want to place a calculator here. 200 times 4 is 8. These cross out. 7 goes into itself 1 time. This is 200. You don't have to worry about this because the 1 is going to cancel here. So 200 times 4 equals 800. 800 equals x, but hey, that's not our answer. Guess what? We have to now go back to do this because here's the situation. The number 800 represents 3/4 the sum of the lengths of the street. Okay, so that's 800. Now all you're doing is thinking things through. A lot of people get stuck on this last step and they're going to go right here to your distractor answer, which is D, which is not the answer. So make sure you look at what is really being asked of you. 800 plus some number gives you 1400. Well, we all know from looking at it, it's 600. Hey guys, is your answer 600? You think so? Think so? It's not. Because the question asks you, how many more? How many more miles? Right here. So you are not done. And the test makers kind of thought, you might do something like this. So they kind of just forgot the second part of the question. If you forgot the second part of the question, you're going to go for one of the distractors. And unfortunately, that's going to cause you some points. And we're trying to do everything we can to make sure you're not losing silly points on an exam because that's most of what the GMAT and the GRE are. So let's go on and see if we can get 200, 400, or 1,000 based on these two numbers. To do that, all we had to do was say that there was 600 was our answer. 800 minus 600 is how many more? That answers your question. And if you read it, 200 is your answer. Most of your GMAT and GRE are two-part exams because you've grown, you're older, you're supposed to be doing graduate level, you're supposed to be able to think. And while there is artificial intelligence out there for you, I don't know if you can use it on the exam. So I don't know if they have chatbots around, but if not, this is simple math. Like us if you want. If you have any questions, we're Jacobs Learning at Gmail. We teach math for the GMAT, the high school entrance exam, GRE, almost any kind of math. Thanks so much. Have a great afternoon.